Hello everyone and welcome back for some more TV and movie gossip, secrets and drama. Today I'm going to be talking about the mysterious Charmed Mermaid spin-off show that we never saw. We'll be looking at what inspired the spin-off, what we know about the plot and the characters, and why the show was filmed but ultimately never saw the light of day. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Also, quickly before we start, I'm so close to hitting 10,000 subscribers, so please could you do me a favour and hit the subscribe button, because it would be really cool to get to 10,000 subscribers and I'd really appreciate it. Thank you! How it all began. As I'm sure most of you know, Charmed was a highly successful fantasy drama that aired between 1998 to 2006. The show centred around the lives of the Halliwell sisters, who find out they are powerful witches named the Charmed Ones, who are tasked with protecting the world from evil. The show was a huge hit and ran for 8 seasons, breaking multiple records, and has developed a cult following which still exists today. However, there was a lot of drama between the cast and crew on Charmed, which did lead to one of the main actresses quitting, as well as some other drama since then. I did previously do an entire video about the drama of Charmed, so if you haven't already, make sure you check that out if you're interested, and I'll link to that video in the description. As with other successful TV shows, Charmed was expanded outside of the main show and included multiple other spin-offs, such as a reboot in 2018, novels, comics, merchandise and podcasts. However, there was a planned spin-off of Charmed to do with mermaids that many people don't know about, which was inspired by a mermaid-themed episode of Charmed. So let's go through the episode that inspired the spin-off and then explore how this led to the spin-off that was filmed but never came out. A Witch's Tale. By season 5 of Charmed, the show was still enjoying high ratings, although, as with many long-running TV shows, there were some fears that the show's storylines were getting a bit repetitive. The show decided to switch things up a bit, and for the premiere of season 5, they did a 2-part episode called A Witch's Tale. The storyline of the episode is that a mermaid named Miley has made a deal with an evil witch called the Sea Hag, who gave Miley legs for 30 days in order to find love. Miley has found love with a mortal man named Craig, but because Craig hasn't specifically said he loves her, the Sea Hag wants Miley to give her her immortality, but Miley refuses, so the Sea Hag hunts her down. The Charmed Ones get involved and want to help Miley. In the process, they cast a spell to locate the Sea Hag, but the spell seems to not work as expected, and Phoebe ends up being transformed into a mermaid. The Charmed Ones eventually defeat the Sea Hag and save Miley. However, Phoebe decides that she wants to stay a mermaid because she wants to run away from her marital issues with Cole. But by the end of the second episode, they convince Phoebe to return to being human and she divorces Cole. A Witch's Tale got a viewership of 6.32 million in the US, which was significantly higher than any other episode of season 5, with viewership usually being between 5 to 6 million. And this episode had one of the highest viewerships the show had had in a long time. Fans seem to love the mermaid theme of the episode, and some sources suggest one of the other reasons for the episode's success was because of actress Alyssa Milano being in a skimpy outfit for most of the episode. Also, one interesting fact I came across while researching for this video is that, as many of you can probably guess, the episode A Witch's Tale is clearly inspired by the storyline of the 1989 Disney movie The Little Mermaid. However, what you may not know is that the face of the character of Ariel was actually based on Alyssa Milano's face. Alyssa appeared on the Wendy Williams show in 2013, and she revealed that the animator for The Little Mermaid, named Glenn Keane, created Ariel in her likeness. He used photos of Alyssa when she was younger to perfect Ariel's facial features. However, Alyssa wasn't aware of this until Disney asked her to host the show called The Making of the Little Mermaid, which was a short documentary detailing how they made the film, and young Alyssa Milano was the host of it, which you can watch on YouTube. However, let's get back to Charmed. After the success of A Witch's Tale, a mermaid-themed spin-off of Charmed was proposed, and it did get filmed, but it never came out. Let's dive more into that now. Mermaid. As I mentioned earlier, due to the success of the Charmed episode A Witch's Tale, which came out in 2002, Charmed's executive producer named Brad Kern decided to develop a spin-off show called Mermaid. Although the show was a spin-off of Charmed, it would not include any of Charmed's main characters. The premise of Mermaid was that a young mermaid named Nikki is rescued by a man named Matt who finds her washed up on a beach in Miami. Matt is a lawyer who lives with his roommate and is engaged to his boss's daughter. At first, Matt doesn't believe that Nikki is a mermaid until she proves that it's true. According to the mythology of the show, as per the Charmed wiki page, mermaids originate from a sunken city and have supernatural abilities, including superhuman strength and agility, as well as being able to see in the dark, read emotions, and have a connection with other sea creatures. However, there was another race of creatures who began their existence underwater, but they have since adapted to living on dry land. And this includes Eric Luger, the main antagonist of the series, who is now hunting Nikki. Nikki attempts to live a normal life and gets a job as a waitress. She and Matt also help to save innocent people because, quote, mermaids are drawn to protecting the innocent, it's in their blood, much like witches. When casting the show, Brad Kern said he looked in London, New York, New Zealand, Hollywood, Florida, Melbourne and Sydney and interviewed around 300 people. He eventually chose a relatively unknown at the time Australian actress named Natalie Kelly to play the main role of Nikki. There is even a photo of Natalie in character as Nikki, which I found on the Charmed wiki page. Natalie Kelly later went on to star in franchises such as The Fast and the Furious, The Vampire Diaries and Dynasty. Interestingly, in The Vampire Diaries, Natalie played the character of Sybil, who is a siren, which is a mythological creature that often gets compared to mermaids because they have some similarities in certain cultures. Other actors that got cast in Mermaid were Jeff Stoltz as Matt, as well as Roger Daltrey as the main antagonist Luger. Interestingly, actor Brandon Quinn was cast to play Matt's best friend, and Brandon later went on to play Homeland Security Agent Murphy in Season 8 of Charmed. Brandon said during an interview that after he filmed Mermaid, he had no job and was a permanent bachelor. Then Brad Kern came to him and told him about the role of Agent Murphy on Charmed and said, quote, he's a Homeland Security agent, he's 180 degrees opposite from what you played in my pilot this year, referring to Mermaid, but I really think you could do it. Beatrice Rosen was also cast in Mermaid, and she also went on to have a recurring role in Season 8 of Charmed as the character Maya Holmes. And it does make sense that some of the actors in this failed spin-off did later go on to appear in Charmed. Another actress that was also cast in Mermaid was Anna Ortiz, who later went on to star in Ugly Betty as well as other projects. Mermaid was eventually written and filmed in Miami in 2005, which was 3 years after the Charmed episode A Witch's Tale, which inspired it. So you may be asking, if they filmed it, why have we never seen the show? Ultimately, although the pilot was shot, it didn't get picked up by the network. At the time, the network that did Charmed was the WB, which was owned by Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers decided to merge with United Paramount Network and created the new network called the CW in January 2006. They hoped this merger would allow them to compete with other big networks like Fox. However, during this time, the networks were involved in messy legal proceedings, and there were also a lot of budget cuts, which eventually went on to affect Charmed as well. This all culminated in Mermaid not getting picked up by the CW. Brad Kern revealed that the studio, quote, decided at the last second to cut the budget in half, which resulted in the number of shooting days to be reduced, thus decreasing the quality of the pilot in being able to sell the concept. And so, although Mermaid was actually filmed, it seems that it will never see the light of day. I did try and see if I could find any clips of the show or even a trailer, but all I could find was this still image of actress Natalie Kelly in character as Nikki, which I showed earlier. Interestingly, there were also other proposed spin-offs of Charmed that got even less far than Mermaid did. For example, according to the Charmed wiki page, when Charmed was renewed for season 8, the network insisted that they have some quote new blood in the show. This is why the character of Billy was introduced, played by the actress Kaylee Cuoco, who later went on to star in the hit sitcom The Big Bang Theory, as well as many other things. Apparently, because Brad Kern knew that season 8 would be the last season of Charmed, he was interested in developing a spin-off centered around Billy and her sister Christy. The series would explore Billy's backstory and also redeem Christy at the end of season 8 of Charmed because she became the main antagonist of the season. However, because the fan reception to the characters of Billy and Christy was so negative, the spin-off was scrapped and Christy's character was killed off at the end of season 8 of Charmed. When asked about this and other spin-offs at the time, Brad said, quote, "There was talk early in the season, but again, lately, I've heard nothing from the network one way or the other. We're still a strong show for them, which is why, in the ideal world, I think they'd like a spin-off. We'll see." There was also another proposed spin-off of Charmed focusing on the character of Piper, played by Holly Marie Combs. And although the spin-off was discussed during the last season of Charmed, the network lost interest in any Charmed spin-off, so the idea was also scrapped. I also found on the Charmed wiki page that after the success of the season 6 episode Crisscrossed, a website was created which demanded the creation of a spin-off about the two Halliwell brothers, Wyatt and Chris, in their adult lives. Apparently, fans gathered on the forum, donated to get themselves advertised through billboards, ads in magazines and huge posters placed before the Paramount and Spelling studios. They got in contact with actor Wes Ramsey, who portrayed Wyatt, and he supported the idea of this spin-off. Brad Kern was once asked about this fan-created website during an interview with Charmed magazine, and he said he couldn't do much about it and it was up to the studio. But when the WB heard about the idea, they said they weren't interested because they already had the show Supernatural, which is about two brothers who hunt supernatural creatures, so it would be too similar. And this spin-off was therefore also scrapped, although fans have continued to call for this spin-off over the years, but nothing has ever happened. And as someone who used to watch Charmed, I found this really interesting because I never knew so many spin-offs of the show were created. The Mermaid spin-off was even filmed but never saw the light of day, which I also thought was interesting, and that's why I decided to make a video about it for any other Charmed fans out there that may have also not known about this. So let me know what you think. Do you like the idea of spin-offs in general? And would you like to have seen Mermaid as a full show? And would you like to see the unaired pilot? Let me know in the comments. If you'd like to get early access to my videos, shoutouts in my videos, as well as other exclusive benefits, please consider supporting me on Patreon. It's a cheap way to support the channel and it would be very much appreciated, and I'll put a link to my Patreon in the description. Please make sure you like and comment on this video as it really helps boost this video in the algorithm and helps promote it to more people. And please make sure you hit the subscribe button because it's such a huge help to the channel and I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you'll join me again in future videos. Thank you so much, bye!